In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. This book is about connecting to your higher source of wisdom and understanding, the concept of infinite intelligence, your ability to tap into something that you have access to, everybody has access to. And in this journey of life, we cultivate ourselves to be able to understand, reveal, and reflect on how all the information that is available to you and ever will be available to you is accessed from within. Your world is created from within. Thus, everything comes from within. And in the earlier stages of development, you might look at the external world and say, I am the effect of the external world. And while this is true, you are a product of your surroundings, your environment, your people, and so forth. One of the things that happens is that eventually on this journey, you begin to realize who you are. You become more realized. And in the process of becoming more realized, you become the cause. In a world that you live in where you felt that you are the effect, all of a sudden reality starts to look different. You see yourself as the cause. And not because someone told you, but because you realize that with every thought that you have, you're able to track it to an experience, a circumstance, an environment, and a person, and reflect that that thought materialized the equivalent in the external world. Then as you continue to reflect upon it, what you start to understand is that you get a deeper sense of awareness of your own ability to create. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this book, but I'm going to cover it from an interesting perspective. A while back, I listened to a talk that was given by Dr. Wyatt Woodsmall. If you haven't checked out any of his work, I'll put a link in the description to a video. I recommend checking out his stuff. He has a lot of great content on neurolinguistic programming and NLP modeling. And one of the talks, he mentioned a concept about something about being a magician, and that if you wanted to become the magician, you would have to cultivate 4 skills. Number 1 would be focus of will, your ability to take your attention and direct it towards a specific outcome. Willpower, get yourself to do what you have to do, whether you feel like it or not. Awareness, your ability to sense and perceive the different aspects of reality and how everything fits together. Your connection to the cosmos, your connection to others, your ability to stay within the spirit of harmony and the natural order of things, awareness. And raising up your consciousness falls under awareness, because the higher your consciousness, the more you realize what I mentioned earlier, that you are the cause. Higher the consciousness, the greater the understanding of the cause, the greater the awareness. Now, if you're looking to create something, what are you really looking for? It's really about awareness. You want to have awareness on how to create it. And as your awareness goes up, which is a net result of your consciousness goes up, your consciousness going up, what you find out is you're able to access information faster, easier than ever before. Why is it? Is it because the technology exists? Is it because the world has become more connected? Or is everything just a materialization of your consciousness represented in an external form in which is picked up by your senses for you to make a certain level of understanding of? But the bottom line is this: as your awareness increases, your ability to access information becomes faster. Now, another thing that happens is as your awareness increases, you look for the answers within. There was a time in your life where you would seek answers from the external world, books, people, mentors, and so forth. And then something starts to shift within you and you start to look for answers within. And just like that, you are able to find the answers within. You are able to then connect with the infinite, where all answers came from in the first place. Now, in the last few videos, I talked about the concept called vibration. And in vibration, the way we look at reality is that there's an infinite amount of different vibrations, all the way from the lowest form, all the way up to divine or the highest level of vibration. And perhaps it goes even higher. And the better we are and more we are in alignment in the spirit of harmony, as in the well-being of all, the more we raise up our consciousness, the more we do the great work on ourselves and develop and cultivate ourselves to a higher degree of realization, the higher we experience a feeling of vibration. What does that feel like? Well, you have higher states of bliss more often. You experience flow more often. You understand yourself as the cause more often. You operate more from a place of unconditional love and acceptance of others more often. And as a result of going into this higher vibration, you also start to listen to the voice within. So awareness is important. And the third piece, quality of character. Because in order to get to the higher vibrations, in order to have a heightened degree of awareness, in order to raise your consciousness up, you have to level up the quality of character, which means how do you interact with this world? The outer world is a reflection of the inner world, and when we reflect back on the discussions we had with the Kabbalion, all is mind, and what is reflected in the external world is you, from within projected outwards. And as your mind within yourself, in your imagination, evolve yourself to a higher degree of quality of character, so does the external world change, just like that. So it's important then to level up our quality of character. And then finally, intent, purity of intent. You become what you think about. This is one of the things that all prophets, sages, wise philosophers have agreed upon throughout the ages. You become what you think about. All philosophies, all religions point to the same thing. You become what you think about. And the purity of your thoughts, the specificity of your thoughts, and the tandem or the combination with the quality of character, focus of will, and level of awareness allows you to create in reality. But as mentioned, Wyatt Woodsmall talked about this in the concept of being the magician. What is the magician? Well, the word magician comes from magi, which means the wise one or the wise man. And for all intents and purposes, it means being in connection with the divine. In other words, being tuned in with the infinite. Because what are you in that regard? You are an expression or an instrument of expression of the infinite. Within yourself lies the cause of whatever enters your own life. To come into the full realization of your own awakened inner powers, it is to be able to condition your life in exact accord with what you would have it. Where does what you want come from? Well, in earlier stages, we look around to what everyone else is doing and our five senses and say, this is what we want to create. And then we begin to work with that and we start to create things. And then as we start to develop these abilities by using the faculties of creation, which is to some degree will, awareness, character, and intent, we graduate into a heightened degree of consciousness and awareness. And then it's like we pass the test or we rose up and passed the workshop. We are given a higher degree of responsibility. Usually this responsibility comes with greater rewards, but the responsibility is more so over ourselves, over others, and so forth. And the more we keep rising up to the challenges, assuming the responsibility, rising up to the challenge, and creating the results in a positive way, the more we get access to even greater purpose. Eventually you get to the point where you find your life's purpose. You know why you're here. And then this information makes even more sense. And then you even come across information like this. Because then what has happened is you have aligned with divine will. So when we're talking about will, we're talking about aligning with divine will. In the earlier stages, you utilize human will. But when you're in a higher state of consciousness, you are one with the Creator and aligned with divine will, and you are one with divine will. And it is during that time where you become unstoppable. You are in alignment with the entire universe. You are a force of nature. Now, as mentioned, this is a journey. So you realize this more and more. So what we're going to focus on in this video is increasing our ability to align with the divine will, because that's the nature of the soul, that's the journey of the soul. Increasing our awareness, which means that as a result of the contents within this video, you will know how to increase your will, and you'll have a heightened degree of awareness. We will focus on refining and elevating our character to a higher degree of refinement, because that's going to bring us into a higher vibration, into a higher state of consciousness, closer to the communication with the infinite. And we're going to purify our intent, because we've mentioned this many times, you become what you think about. Will. Much is said today in regard to the will. It is many times spoken of as if it was we're a force in itself, but will is a force, a power, only insofar as it is a particular form of the manifestation of the thought forces, for it is by what we call the will that thought is focused and given a particular direction. And in the degree that thought is thus focused and given direction, the degree that thought is thus focused and given direction, is it effective in the work it is sent out to accomplish? Your ability to direct your thoughts to a specific outcome is the level of mastery that you have achieved in your life. If your thoughts are constantly wandering and fluctuating based on your senses, then you haven't acquired mastery of your mind yet. You haven't cultivated the necessary ability to have the higher degree of responsibilities that await you. So thus, one of the important things we have to remember is, as we go about our days, ask ourselves, with everything we do, is what we are doing related to our number one definite chief aim? Now, why is this important? It's not just about creating what we desire, our definite chief aim, but it's about training our ability. This is training. This entire life is a training workshop in different levels. Training your ability to overcome animalistic urges, the limitations of the physical senses, and transcend as an exercise to create. And you do this through self-awareness. As you go about, note all the things that take your attention away from your definite chief aim, and ask yourself, why is this so? Well, through many discussions that we've had so far, we talk about the conscious and the subconscious mind. And that most of the creations that we do, the materializations of the external world, come from the subconscious. And as we evolve in this journey, we make the subconscious conscious. We become more aware of how to work with the subconscious. We also become aware on how to program the subconscious. We also become aware on how to guard the subconscious. And as we honor that information, as we work with it, we notice that we're able to stay a lot more focused with our will directly towards what we want to create. And it is your ability to focus and keep your mind on the outcome, or as Neville Goddard puts it, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Your ability to do that, that is going to materialize the world accordingly. If you don't do this, then you're going to do a lot of things that involve the lower planes of existence. Remember, what we're doing here is we're developing ourselves to work with the higher faculties of the mind, the mental chemistry, the ability to draw the hidden forces that are not perceived through the five senses. If you believe that all that exists in this reality is that what is perceived in the five senses, then you have not cultivated the ability to understand this yet. But I promise you this, you have had experiences in your life where you were able to command the hidden forces with thought. You have materialized, you have manifested, and brought forth into existence things beyond even your ability to rationalize of how you did it. You have the ability. You've done it before. The great work is to train yourself to do it again and again and again. In a sense, there are two kinds of will, the human and the divine. The human will is the will for what, for convenience sake, we may term the lower self. It is the will that finds its life merely in the realm of the mental and the physical, the sense will. It is the will of the one who is not yet awake to the fact that there is a life that far transcends the life of merely the intellect and the physical senses, and which, when realized and lived, does not do away with or minify these, but which, on the contrary, brings them to their highest perfection and to their powers of keenest enjoyment. The divine will is the will of the higher self, the will of the one who recognizes their oneness with the divine, and who consequently brings their will to work in harmony, in conjunction with the divine will. Now, how do you go about doing this? As mentioned, you have right now the opportunity to do it. Everybody does. We have the opportunity right now to work with what we have, to direct our mind, our will right now, to create our definite chief aim. What is it? Have you identified it? Pick something and exercise your mind to create it. Use the principles that we cover on this channel. Use the philosophies contained within this book or other personal development information and create it. When you create it, you'll start to tap into something called creative imagination, where hunches, inspirations, ideas will come to you in the most unexpected ways. You'll wonder, how did you even think of those things? They will come to you. That is the divine knocking on your door and saying, you are doing the right thing, and I want to show you that I want to be part of this. And then you're given another responsibility. And then when you create that and you repeat that over and over again, you have earned and you are worthy of connecting and working with the divine will. So in other words, you have to earn it. And if you don't earn it, then you will repeat the cycle over and over again till you earn it. And since it's the nature of the soul to earn it, you want to earn it. Why? Because all the blessings that the soul desires, everything that you ever wanted in life, is available to you by aligning with the divine will, because you are one with the Creator. This is how you become harmonious with the Creator again. And you build the relationship further with the Creator again. You have deeper gratitude and appreciation with the Creator through this process. It's a perfect divine process that has been set up. The human will has its limitations. So far and no further, says the law. The divine will has no limitations. No limitations. Wouldn't it be amazing to live a life with no limitations? Well, we have the ability to tap into divine will and connect with the divine will and live a life with no limitations. Now, is this a rare occurrence? Well, this is an ongoing journey. So if you look around, I'm sure you'll find many examples of people that everything they touch turns to gold. Anything they do turns into success. It's common for somebody who doesn't understand how this stuff works to say it was luck and chance that brought them to where they are. But those that have a deeper understanding of this, through own self-reflection and reference experience, will realize that they earned it through the process, and that you could do it as well. All things are open and subject to you, says the law, and so in the degree that the human will is transmuted into the divine, in the degree that it comes into harmony with and so acts in conjunction with the divine, does it become supreme. Then it is that thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. The great secret of life and power then is to make and to keep one conscious a connection with the infinite source. Now, how do you do this in a world where maybe you are experiencing the senses telling you what to think? It's in your imagination. Your connection with God, the divine, is in your imagination. Do you practice your imagination? Do you go within your imagination and visualize, imagine, seeing yourself ideally the person that you want to be, which is who your soul wants to be because you feel it? And do you keep your mind in that imagination and hold that feeling of the wish fulfilled, as Neville Goddard puts it, until it materializes despite any kind of contrarian information coming in via your senses? Are you doing the things that are in alignment with that? Are you thinking the things that are in alignment with that? Or are you allowing your mind to drift onto what is not related towards that? That's why having a goal and a vision is very important. It's training the mind. It's training the will. Awareness. There is a golden thread that runs through every religion in the world. There is a golden thread that runs through the lives and teachings to all the prophets, seers, sages, and saviors in the world's history, through the lives of all men of truly great and lasting power. All that they have ever done or attained has to be done in full accordance with the law. Now, I call this the spirit of harmony. And the spirit of harmony entails that with what you do it for the best interest of yourself and others and evolution or divine. You make that your intent. You level up your quality of character till you realize that it is possible. In higher states of consciousness, when we talk about unconditional love, as discussed by the work by David Hawkins in Power versus Force or Letting Go, unconditional love is a higher state of consciousness. Someone who lives in unconditional love is able to materialize and create in reality because they do it from a place of harmony. So they do not put condition on anything. Because to put condition is to not understand the nature of things. You haven't gotten there yet. Now, when you operate from a place of unconditional love, you experience and you realize that abundance is possible for all. When you're not in that level of vibration yet, or level of consciousness, it's hard to believe that it's possible. But until you have risen yourself up to a certain level of consciousness, you realize it's possible. And you may be with the minority who sees that, but you honor it because it's a realization that comes from within. Where did the realization come from? The realization came as a result of being in tune with the infinite. In the Kabbalion, we say, as above, so below, as in the divine is looking to manifest on earth. Heaven on earth. It's a process. It's already happening. We've evolved so much as a species, and it's continuously happening. And consciousness is rising higher and higher, and you're part of it. You have the ability to align with it and bring it forth faster. And as a result of aligning with it, you shall have whatever you want. That's the beautiful journey of life, is by aligning yourself with the divine will. You understand the golden thread. You do the work on yourself. You level up, and as a result of that, your self-esteem and your self-confidence goes up. When your self-confidence and your self-esteem is up, you trust the voice within. Your awareness is high of the external world, but the answers come from within. You know what this golden thread is, the spirit of harmony, and you live with it, and you take inventory of all areas of your life, and you ask yourself, where am I not living in the spirit of harmony? And you make the changes because you know this is your soul's journey. Each is building their own world. Okay? Each is building their own world. We both build from within and we attract from without. Thought is the force with which we build, for thoughts are forces. Like builds like, and like attracts like. In the degree that thought is spiritualized, does it become more subtle and powerful in its workings. Thus, spiritualizing is in accordance with the law and is within the power of all. See, in earlier stages, you're like, well, the external world is this, and this is going on in the external world. Again, that's in the earlier stages. Trust and have faith in the process, and then you will see that as your consciousness rises, as you work with this information, and you work with divine will, and the awareness increases, and you tune with the infinite, that the information comes from within. It programs your subconscious mind and projects outwards and reflects accordingly as far as the eyes and the senses can perceive. It's not the other way around, taking in via your senses and then forming conclusions and recreating via the subconscious mind. But working with that, which is synthetic imagination, we talked about that in the imagination video. I recommend you watch it. I'll put a link in the description. But this is the creative imagination. These are the instructions that come as a result of tuning in with the divine and expressing outwards. The light shines from within you. outwards and expresses in form, materializes in form, such as in the story of creation in Genesis. Everything is first worked out in the unseen before it manifests in the seen, in the ideal before it is realized in the real, in the spiritual before it shows forth in the material. The realm of the unseen is the realm of cause. The realm of the seen is the realm of effect. The nature of effect is always determined and conditioned by the nature of its cause. Now, this statement should be read over and over again throughout the journey for the rest of your life, because this is a continuous journey, and at any moment, you could switch back into effect mode and forget that you are the cause. This is the journey. In the earlier stages, you take in information via your senses and you recreate. And then you realize that, wait a second, if I start to change things within, the external world changes, and then you go into the cause and you work with the unseen in your imagination, and you continuously change it. And when you do it over and over again with repetition, and you honor that, you just keep creating over and over again as a result of working with the unseen, which is your imagination. But at any moment you stop that and you doubt it, and you have fears and doubts and fears, and indecision is the cause for not honoring the statement. So as you go through your life, you'll take inventory of all the areas where you fear, doubt, and have indecision, and ask yourself, how is it affecting this truthful statement here? You'll see that for some reason you have embraced via your senses fears, doubts, and indecision, which came from the senses and did not come from divine. There is a divine sequence running throughout the universe. Within the above and below, the human will works with the divine to come into harmony with it, and thereby with all the higher laws and forces, to come then into league and to work in conjunction with them, in order that they can work in league and in conjunction with us, is to come into the chain of this wonderful sequence. This is the secret of all success. This is to come into possession of unknown riches, into the realization of undreamed of powers. Now remember this. The goal is to focus on what is right, what we're talking about here, not who is right. As indicated in the next statement here, the optimist is right, the pessimist is right. The one differs from the other as the light from the dark, yet both are right. Because thought creates everything. If you see the world as pessimist, you will materialize it accordingly. If you see the world as optimist, you will materialize it accordingly. If you believe you are the cause, you will materialize it accordingly. If you believe you are the effect, as far as the senses will perceive, you will find fact to say you are the effect. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. Now you're realizing that it is yours, and you have the desire to keep it yours. Each is right from their own particular point of view, and this point of view is the determining factor in the life of each. It determines as to whether it is the life of power or of impotence, of peace or of pain, of success or of failure. We need to realize that environment should never be allowed to make the man, but that the man should always and always can condition the environment. When we realize this, we shall find that many times it is not necessary to take ourselves out of any particular environment, because we may yet have a work to do there, but by the very force we carry with us, we can so affect and change matters that we shall have an entirely new set of conditions in an old environment. Everywhere you go, there you are. Until the change happens within, the external world doesn't change. We just run away from ourselves. The outer world is the projection of the inner world. It may look like we go somewhere else, but we go nowhere. We materialize the external world based on within. You take a person and you put them in paradise, in the happiest land ever. They will find fault if they find fault within. You take someone and you put them into an environment that might not be the ideal circumstance. They feel positive within, they're optimists within, they see opportunity within, they will find it in the external world. Now, this is not to say that you can't pick and choose your environment. It is to say, however, that every environment you are in is your opportunity. It is your acres of diamonds. And from there, you shall elevate into where you go next, which is what the divine has in plan for you, which is what your soul has in plan for you, which is what you desire. But where you are right now is the workshop. It is the opportunity. Character. This is a spirit of infinite love. The moment we recognize ourselves as one with it, we become so filled with love that we see only the good in all. And when we realize that we are all one with the infinite spirit, then we realize that in a sense, we are all one with each other. When we come into a recognition of this fact, we can then do no harm to anyone, to anything. We find that we are all members of the one great body, and that no portion of the body can be harmed without all the other portions suffering thereby. Outer world's a reflection of the inner world. We are all connected. We have taken in information via our senses and projected outwards to materialize as form. What we are seeing is ourselves expressed in other people. If you get really deep into this stuff, then you really start to question, do people really look the way we believe them to look? Do things really look and are experienced the way we believe them to be experienced? Or are they just manifestations of programming that we received via our senses and we assume them to be that way? Now that can be very confusing at first, but reflect upon this. If we came in here to learn a lesson on how to align with divine will, then we must have enormous confidence and faith in our ability to connect with divine will and pull information from divine will on the perfection that we are and have it project outwards, and then look at the person, then look at the circumstance, then look at the environment. They probably will look very different. They will probably be experienced very different. And that information then goes into our senses, programs our subconscious mind, and recreates it accordingly. But if someone says to us, well, this person's a negative person, or this person's wrong, or this person's that, and we believe that, and we take it in via our senses, we recreate that by putting outwards what is within our subconscious. Think about different learning experiences that you've had in your life growing up. When you've heard other people talk about other people in a negative way, and reflect on your journey, how you had to remove that programming within you when you realized that it wasn't true. It was only because within yourself you were projecting them to be that way, and they materialized, but then other people would experience them differently. And you said, what if I just change this programming within? And then you start to materialize them the way you want to materialize them, and you say, wait a second, what if I start to believe them to be positive? What if I start to express love to them? What if I see them as myself? And then you materialize them to be so, and they connect with you like that. And then we fully realize the fact that selfishness is the root of all error, sin and crime, and that ignorance is the bias of all selfishness, with what charity we come to look upon the acts of all. It is the ignorant man who seeks his own ends and at the expense of the greater whole. It is the ignorant man, therefore, who is selfish man. The truly wise man is never selfish. He is a seer and recognizes the fact that he, a single member of the one great body, is benefited in just the degree that the entire body is benefited, and so he seeks nothing for himself that he would not equally seek for all mankind. Now, the more work we do on ourselves to raise up our consciousness, and thus our awareness goes up, the more we start to realize this to be true. And the more harmonious we are with others, the more harmonious we are with all beings, the more harmonious we are with everything, because it is a reflection of what is within. And then interestingly, everything and everyone and all of the external world becomes harmonious with us. And in the spirit of harmony, we create. And it becomes easier to create. Now think about this in the business world. If you think that the world is a ruthless place and whatnot, you'll materialize business to be accordingly. But if you believe that everyone works together in the spirit of harmony, in a cooperative manner, you will attract people, circumstances, and situations, the business opportunities, you will materialize the equivalent to be so. Now, I'll speak from experience as a result of this, as during this journey, and what I'm saying here as we continue to go in this is a constant journey of cleansing the character within that's materializing the external world, and that thus, whatever it is your definite chief aim materializes according to the quality of your character as an expression outwards. When we come fully to realize the great fact that all evil and error and sin, with all their consequent sufferings, come through ignorance, then wherever we see a manifestation of these in whatever form, if our hearts are right, we will have compassion, sympathy, and compassion for the one in whom we see them. Compassion will then change itself into love, and love will manifest itself in kindly service. Such is the divine method, and so instead of aiding in trampling and keeping a weaker down, we will hold them up until they stand alone and become the master. If you are in a position of leadership, if you have a team, if you have people that you're communicating with, and you do not see the greater good in them, and you see negativity or whatever the senses is assuming to be fact, you will materialize them accordingly. So it's important then to see everybody that you connect with as their greatest self. And with that, you will give them the energy, and they will feel it, and they will gravitate towards you because you see something in them that maybe they don't see in themselves, but it is their true nature. Okay, so we've talked about character and the importance of and how to go about leveling up our character so that we are in a position to connect to higher states of consciousness, higher vibrations, operate from a place of unconditional love so we can attract and receive the creative imagination, the connection to the infinite. We talked about will, directing your will towards a specific outcome, chief definite aim and the importance of that. And then as a result of that, getting more responsibility that's even more in alignment with your soul's desire, which also, by the way, then connects you with the infinite intelligence or tuning in with the infinite. We talked about the importance of awareness. Now let's get into intent. So having quality of character, it's important. Having a heightened degree of awareness is important. Directing your will towards a specific outcome is very important. Intent, what drives you, the meaning behind it, and the specificity is also very important. Here are a couple things to calibrate intent. And one of the most important things we have to remember is the subconscious intent. Because until we are at a level where we have made the subconscious very conscious, we have programming that's in our subconscious mind. And that subconscious intent that's being projected outwards and materializing into form, people, environment, and circumstance. It exists within the subconscious. It is there from past experiences, past programming, past information that we have consumed. And that is subconscious intent. Now, we can also have our subconscious mind programmed by the intent of others, other information, and so forth. That's why it's important to guard the subconscious mind and to observe the kind of meaning you're giving to information. This is the spirit of infinite plenty, the power that is continuously bringing all things into expression into material form. He who lives in the realization of his oneness with the infinite power becomes a magnet to attract to himself a continual supply of whatever things he desires. So the intent then is to connect to the infinite. Because when you say, I would like to connect to the infinite, I want to be one with my Creator, I have a desire to rise up to the vibration, to meet my Creator, to be one with my Creator. And that's why Yogananda talks about this in his meditations, to say, reveal thyself, reveal thyself. This is essentially a form of expression of saying, connect me to my Creator. You are then guarded, you are then supported, and you are then protected. And this helps purify your intent. Because as mentioned, you don't know if the subconscious intent is in alignment with the divine. So we have to ask the divine for guidance to purify the intent. And then the information, the person, the video, the book, the whatever, reveals itself to cleanse the subconscious mind of impure intent. So you're not lost if you have within your subconscious mind intent that is not pure. By asking the divine for guidance, by asking within for guidance, know that the divine will reveal itself in some shape or form and materialize itself in the external to help you clear out this intent that you have within you that you might not be aware of. If one beholds themselves in the thought of poverty, they will be poor, and the chances are that they will remain in poverty. If one holds themselves, whatever present conditions may be, continuously in the thought of prosperity, they set into operation forces that will sooner or later bring them into prosperous conditions. So whatever the circumstance, whatever the information that you have within you right now that is creating a circumstance that is not ideal for you, you can program that information by consuming, or you can program your subconscious mind by consuming empowering information. By committing, you are going to guard your subconscious mind. You're going to infuse your mind with empowering information based on prosperity. That information is going to go into your subconscious mind and program your subconscious mind with intent to bring it forth. See, the subconscious mind cannot reject, it will only accept. And we have the ability consciously to choose the kind of information that we put in. Now, sometimes we have programming within our subconscious mind that goes out and desires the negative information so that it can express itself in a negative way, which is based on past programming that was negative in nature that is now seeking to express itself and keep itself there. We call that the paradigm remaining the same. But we have to become aware that this is what's happening. We can't blame the subconscious mind. We just have to understand that this is how it works. And if we see ourselves materializing desire or manifesting desire to consume disempowering negative information, then we have to remember that this is because there is programming in our subconscious mind that desires it, and we can consciously use our will to choose the empowering, prosperity-based information. And through the repetition of consuming that information and placing yourself around people, environment, circumstance that is prosperous, your subconscious mind gets reprogrammed and materializes accordingly. If one holds themselves in the poverty, a thought of poverty, they will be poor, and the chances are that they will remain in poverty. Now, if we are not becoming really aware of how we are being influenced, and we are not honoring this kind of information. I know I mention this a lot in my videos. I say this all the time. We are a product of the five that we choose to associate with. We are a product of our environment. We are a product of the information we are consuming. We live in a time today where there's so much information, and we have a conscious ability to choose the kind of information in. But if we are continuously encouraging thoughts and information that is based on not having the prosperity that we desire, and it doesn't really matter how factual the information is, it's going into our subconscious mind and materializing accordingly. That's just how it works. It's the law of attraction, and more specifically, the law of vibration. Information that is not of prosperity is of a lower vibration. The universe is abundant. Abundance is the natural way of being. And when we consume information, as factual as it may seem, if it makes us feel disempowered, if it brings us into a place of scarcity, it is putting us in the vibration. Watch the video I did on frequency by Penny Pierce. And watch the other video I did last week on vibration, elements from Think and Grow Rich. When we go into the vibration of scarcity, we will materialize and attract people, environment, circumstance of scarcity. That's how it works, law of attraction. The law of attraction works unceasingly throughout the universe, and the one great and never-changing fact in connection with it is, as we have found, that like attracts like. Vibration attracts the same vibration. Thought attracts the same thought. And information attracts the materialization or materializes in the external world as form based on that information that we're consuming. If we are one with this infinite power, the source of all things, then in the degree that we live in the realization of its oneness, in the degree that we actualize in ourselves a power that will bring to us an abundance of all things that is desirable for us to have. That it will bring to us an abundance of all things that is desirable for us to have. Abundance is the natural order of things. It is the way that it is. There is nothing that anybody can say to you or information that can tell you otherwise. If you believe otherwise, you have consumed that information and you are assuming it to be fact. It is that information that has gone into your subconscious mind and programming you to materialize information to be as fact. If you were surrounded by abundance your whole life, all you would know is abundance. You would be in abundance consciousness. And the negative information wouldn't even get to you. If it for some reason showed up in your awareness, you would understand what they're saying from their perspective, but you wouldn't internalize it in your subconscious. In this way, we come into possession of a power whereby we can actualize at all times those conditions that we desire. This is the law of prosperity. When apparent adversity comes, be not cast down by it, but make the best of it and always look forward for better things, for conditions more prosperous. Why? Because that changes the vibration right there. If you got something that shows up within your awareness and you feel the vibration going into scarcity consciousness or negativity or whatnot, you will materialize what is going to be a net result of that feeling that you are identifying with as a result of the meaning you are giving to whatever comes to you. So you can change that by changing the meaning. And you don't need to look around to see what others give. If everyone gives the meaning of disempowerment to the same circumstance, you don't have to choose it. If you go within yourself and you connect to the divine within the higher self, you will see that your higher self is going to say, look at it from a positive way. But are you going to trust yourself or are you going to not trust yourself? That's the question. But whatever you decide to do with that information, whatever meaning you choose to associate with it, is going to change how you feel. And how you feel is going to materialize accordingly. That's just how it works. To hold yourself in this attitude of mind is to set into operation subtle, silent, and irresistible forces that sooner or later will actualize in material form that which is today merely an idea. When we recognize the fact that a man carries their success or failure with them, and that it is not dependent upon outside conditions, we shall come into the possession of powers that will quickly change outside conditions into agencies that make for success. When we come into this higher realization and bring our lives into complete harmony with the higher laws, we shall then be able to focus and direct the awakened interior forces, and they will go out and return laden with that for which they are sent. Always remember this, conscious mind and subconscious mind. You might be consciously saying that you want to create that what is your definite chief aim. You might not even have a definite chief aim. If a person does not have a definite chief aim, then it's an indication that there's something going on within the paradigm that is not allowing them to even get into a place of evolution and realization. They cannot start this journey and they cannot understand what's going on within them unless they do something towards a specific worthwhile outcome, because that's where you start to realize things about yourself. When you have a goal and you begin to move towards the goal, that is the only way that you will reveal what is hidden in your subconscious. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, if there's not something you're moving towards, then how do you reveal this about yourself? It's one of the easiest ways, and perhaps there's a way, but this is the way that I have found to be tried, tested, and true. Pick a goal and move towards the goal and write down, take notes, inventory, journal. What comes up that steers you away from your goal? That's what's revealing to you what's in the subconscious. And you'll start to realize that there's programming in the subconscious mind that is not in alignment with the materialization of that goal. And you can change it. You can go to work on it. And one of the biggest things that hold us back is fear. Fear materializes into its equivalent, just as abundance, love, prosperity, all the positive emotions materialize into its equivalent. Not only do we attract to ourselves the thing we fear, but we also aid in attracting to others the conditions we in our minds hold them in fear of. This we do in proportion to the strength of our own thought and in the degree that they are sensitively organized and so influenced by our thought, and this although it be unconscious both in their part and on ours. See, if there's fear that exists within us, we're going to attract people that play out the theater with us to reveal the fear that's within us and them. Just as when there's prosperity in the mind, we will attract the people to show up in our lives to play out the prosperity that's within them also. If it does not exist within you, it can't play out. If it exists within you, it will play out. If it exists in you subconsciously but you're not aware of it, and it plays out, then reflect how it exists within you subconsciously and go to work on it. One of the most important things that we can remember on this journey is that we do not want to become the product of other people's thinking. We want to become the product of our own thinking that is connected to the divine thinking, and bring that forth out from within, reflect. Now, this doesn't mean you don't appreciate and understand the creations of others and what is being materialized by them. But as a distinction that we have to remember is that if we don't understand that who we are is individuals, and the individuality needs to be expressed in our way and honored as the number one priority, then we're going to look for validation, approval, and opinions of others to sway us in a direction. And it's not them doing it, it's just not because we have a certain degree of self-esteem and self-confidence cultivated yet. But the net result of that is losing yourself. And then you have to go and find yourself again. Don't surrender your individuality, which is your greatest agent of power, to the customs and conventionalities that have got their life from the great mass of those who haven't enough force to preserve their individualities. Those who, in other words, have given them over as ingredients to the mush of concession, which one of our greatest writers has said characterizes our modern society. If you do surrender your individuality in this way, you simply aid in increasing the undesirable conditions. In payment for this, you become a slave. See, you don't have to physically be in bondage to be a slave. You could be a slave to other people's opinions, and as a result, you know that you're not doing what you really want to do. And that's a form of conceptual slavery. It's a form of mental slavery or emotional slavery. And the chances are that in time you will be unable to hold even the respect from those whom you in this way try to please. Because here's the thing. The journey of the soul is expression, originality, individual expression, materialization, that what is the soul's desires, which is individual for each person. And people will always respect the person and value the person that lives the philosophy of expressing their individuality. Even if on the surface they might not accept it in the beginning because they don't understand it. But with congruence and practice of expression of your individuality, you awaken in them the possibility and the truth that they are to also express their own individuality. And then not only do you do this great service for yourself, not only do you level yourself up to have guidance and connections with the infinite, but you enable and you encourage others to do the same through your being. If you want a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.